It looks like I'm dealing with a film adaptation yet again. The occasion has been frequent over the last few years that I see movies based on books without being familiar with their source material, allowing me to judge these films based on their own merits. As for the subject of this case, it's a source material I know very well. Every time I write something in these pages, I put a reminder of that source material under my nose. So I carry awareness when facing this adaptation, and every last one of its viciously faithless deviations.
Do we have to?
Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events is based on the book series of the same name, specifically the first 3 books. I own every book in the series and had a reasonable amount of fascination for it when I was younger, though it paled in comparison to my obsession for Harry Potter.
A lot of children's books were being adapted into movie form around this time. Though it achieved favorable critical reception and a decent box office return, a sequel to this movie never ended up happening, and this series was left untouched until the Netflix series based on the books came to us. So I think, with some hesitation, it's time to look at the film and figure out why that was the case. The movie begins with... Do we put in the right DVD?
I'm sorry to say that this is not the movie you will be watching.
That was pretty good. Not just for the break of the fourth wall, but for how long they kept it going to fake us out.
The movie you are about to see is extremely unpleasant.
We've seen The Ant Bully and Son of the Mask. Bring it on.
However, if you like stories about clever and reasonably attractive orphans...
Because unattractive orphans cannot be main characters.
Ahem.
She's even more beautiful on the inside.
Damn you for making me have to use a Hunchback 2 clip on my show.
My name is Lemony Snicket, and it is my sad duty to document this tale.
These are the Baudelaires. Violet, age 14, an inventor.
Violet knew there was always something. Something she could fashion into nearly any device for nearly every occasion.
Klaus, age 12, a bookworm.
Klaus Baudelaire, the middle child, loved books, and everything he read, he remembered.
And Sunny, baby age. She likes to bite things. The children are approached on a beach one day by a family friend, Mr. Poe.
Children, I'm afraid I must inform you of an extremely unfortunate event.
Well, on the bright side, at least it's not a series of them.
I'm very, very sorry to tell you this, but your parents have perished in a fire that's destroyed your entire home.
I think you could stand to show a little bit more emotion about this situation.
Mr. Poe could or the kids?
If you have ever lost someone very important to you, then you already know how it feels.
Yes.
Other mysteries began to unfold before the children's eyes. The smallest discovery would send his mind reeling with questions. What was this spyglass hidden in his father's desk?
It could easily be one of the several meaningless trinkets your parents owned that you didn't know about. Though its resistance to fire is impressive. Mr. Poe is the executor of the Baudelaire's estate, so he is holding their fortune in the bank until Violet turns 18.
And to place you in the care of your closest relative. So I'm taking you to live with your dear Count Olaf, who resides right here in the city just 37 blocks away.
I don't think that's what closest is supposed to mean.
We don't know a Count Olaf.
Yes, of course you do.
Knowing if you know someone is like having a favorite color, Mr. Poe. You can't choose somebody else's answer for them.
He's either your third cousin 4 times removed or your fourth cousin 3 times removed.
The neighborhood seems lovely enough, especially upon meeting their neighbor.
Welcome, I'm Justice Strauss of the City High Court. Please don't be strangers. You come and visit me anytime you like.
But it's another fake-out, as Count Olaf's house appears to exist upon a Tim Burton-y plot of land where weather and aesthetics are inconsistent with the rest of reality.
I have a hard time believing that the Homeowners Association would let that slide when they can get you for putting a sign on your own lawn. We're introduced to Count Olaf, played by Jim Carrey. Given the rather grim tone the book established with this character,
something, something, something. Music builds to a crescendo. Ending on the right foot and strike a bossy.
It's a questionable casting choice.
I must say, you're a gloomy-looking bunch. Why so glum?
Our parents just died.
Oh, yes, of course. How very, very awful. Where do I sign for the fortune? I mean, children.
The fact that Mr. Poe's immediate response wasn't is a good representation of how much intelligence is held by the adults in this movie.
And this is where you'll sleep, time permitting. Nighty-night.
But the sun's still up.
I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but first impressions are often entirely wrong.
That sounds novel and all, but unfortunately each subsequent impression is just as bad or worse than the first one.
In the case of Count Olaf, however, they were correct.
The orphans are put to work cleaning the doomed house and making dinner, while Olaf clowns around with his acting troupe.
Let's go back to prehistoric times when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
You know, for this scene, I kind of get the impression that they just set up the camera and told Jim Carrey to go nuts. For their limited know-how and experience on the matter of cooking, the orphans impressively managed to put together
Pasta puttanesca?
Where's the roast beef?
Roast beef?
It's the Swedish term for beef that is roasted.
But you didn't tell us you wanted roast beef.
I chose to open my heart to you two lovely children and your hideous primate. All I ask in return is that you do each and everything that pops into my head while I enjoy the enormous fortune your parents left behind.
No.
Why, you little... Oh! It's time you children learned a little respect.
Put her down!
You monster! We're going to call Mr. Poe about this right now.
Well, that took a dark turn. Though, in all honesty, this film is mostly keeping true to how the events of the source material play out, even if the dialogue and tone is a bit off.
Are you okay?
No. How could they do this to us?
They're just bad people.
Not them. Mom and Dad.
Klaus?
What, Violet, you're thinking it too. How could they?
It's all Obi-Wan's fault.
Sanctuary is a word which here means a small safe place in a troubling world. Like an oasis in a vast desert or an island in a stormy sea. The Baudelaires enjoyed their evening in the sanctuary they had built together.
Aw, that was a good moment of pleasant feelings.
Custody granted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nice doing business with you.
Which didn't last long at all. But I do like Olaf's top hat.
Next, Olaf takes the orphans on a car ride, stopping at a convenience store by a set of train tracks. Wait a second, that wasn't in the book. Strap yourselves in, folks. Things are about to get messy.
He took the keys!
Try everything.
Using pieces of the car, including a callback to the elf show at the beginning, they try to activate the track switcher. Meanwhile, Olaf is...
I'm going on a perfectly innocent ride in the country with my kids, whom I love.
doing everything the store clerk would be able to classify as reasonably suspicious behavior. Classic play.
Then along comes Mr. Poe, just in time to witness the horror of the situation and take the orphans away. About time there was some reason.
Allowing a child of Sonny's age to drive a car is simply not good parenting.
That's your logic? What about the car being parked on the tracks as the train was coming by? The right decision means a lot less when it's made for an idiotic reason. After a parting threat from Olaf,
I'm going to get you no matter where you go, no matter what you do, I'll find you. You are so deceased.
the children are brought to live with their Uncle Monty, a herpetologist.
Something he makes sure you remember almost every time he talks.
How do you do? What a firm grip, like a Burmese python.
Of course, we get to see his reptiles, including the incredibly deadly viper.
Oh, I'm sorry. My ribbon just jammed.
That's a pretty grim moment to cut away from, but a good way to instigate a cliffhanger. And don't worry, the baby's fine.
It can't possibly harm you. Here we go.
The incredibly deadly viper couldn't have possibly harmed her?
It's a misnomer. I only called him that to play a prank on those stuffed shirts down at the Herpetological Society.
I really hope he's able to do that presentation on April Fool's Day. Then we get, well, some very straightforward and heartwarming moments with this family.
You had children?
And a wife and a home. Until the fire. I may know better than anyone what you're going through. But it's going to be all right. We'll be among people who understand us, people who are like us, people who appreciate unique children who can read and invent and bite things.
Why are you doing all this for us?
Isn't that what family does?
And so, the Baudelaire children went to Peru and together had wonderful adventures with their loving and wonderful new guardian. The end.
So, of course, it's not gonna last long.
These are the words I desperately wish I could type.
I am Stefano. I am an Italian man.
Count Olaf.
This isn't your average stupid. This is the kind of stupid where Olaf's disguise becomes less believable because he spent so much time talking in an effort to show, hey, I'm a different person. But instead, he's slowly destroying the illusion.
I've been bitten 43,700 times.
The children write a secret message to Monty, delivered via snake.
I got your message. Don't worry. I know. Stefano is an imposter.
Yes!
He's a spy from the Herpetological Society. He's here to steal the incredibly deadly viper.
No! In his oblivious state, Monty falls victim to Olaf. The police are called, but they prove about as useful as any other adult in this movie.
The big cage door is open, no snake. Dead guy. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, who woke me up at 9 in the morning for this?
How about because it's your job, you lazy, apathetic twat? The children do their damnedest to convince these barely excusable adults that Olaf and his crony are in disguise.
What about the tattoo? Count Olaf had a tattoo of an eye on his ankle.
Voila! Spick and span.
Aha! They didn't specify which ankle nor which side. You've just been Encyclopedia Browned. Or 2-Minute Mystery, whichever you prefer.
Olaf tells a lie. I know. Shocker.
The incredibly deadly viper is the most deadly snake in the entire ecosystem. I should know. I discovered it.
This lie causes his story to quickly unravel.
Damn it. This was such a good character.
No, it wasn't. I bet they're still not convinced that that's Olaf and his henchmen.
The authorities are in hot pursuit of Mr. Stefano.
That was a joke!
I think the movie's starting to get wise to its own stupidity.
Aunt Josephine?
Never heard of her.
Does it strike you as odd that none of our relatives are related to us?
You see, it's starting to do our job for us. The next guardian is their Aunt Josephine, played by Meryl Streep? Okay, this is the second time we've reviewed a movie where Meryl Streep has popped up unexpectedly. Josephine shows a level of mental stability equivalent to the sturdiness of her house.
I never turn on the radiator. I'm frightened that it might explode.
Well, I'm always afraid that the doorknobs will shatter into a million tiny pieces and one of them will hit my eye.
I should mention that her house is suspended at the edge of a cliff.
Would you like to see some pictures?
Look at all the things you did, Aunt Josephine.
You tame lions? Oh, I was quite adventurous. when Ike was alive.
Did Ike die in a fire?
No. Silly child, no. He was eaten by leeches.
Okay.
That about sums up most of the movie's logic. The family goes to the market, where we meet Count Olaf in his second flawless disguise.
Captain Shab. At your service.
You should also meet his first mate, Lieutenant Liar.
Would you come to my house for dinner this evening? But is not a sentence, Klaus.
It could become one if you didn't interrupt him. That night, the children discover a suicide note from Aunt Josephine.
I know you children may not understand the sad life of a dowager. Dowager has one D.
It doesn't matter. Keep going.
Or what would have led to this desperate act? Act is spelled with a C. No, it's not a suicide note. It's a message. It's not supposed to be Ike, it's supposed to be ice. C. An unbearable with a U.
Those are some keen observations and all, but you should probably get out of the house before you... And so, the Baudelaire children departed this world, which strangely had a specific vendetta against them. May they rest in... Are you shitting me? Clearly, the architecture of this house inspired the structures of Angry Birds. After a wildly impractical escape routine, they used the clues left by the note's grammatical errors to find Josephine in Curdled Cave.
As they head for the shore, Klaus tries to get information from Josephine. Earlier in the film, evidence was shown that she, Monty, and the Baudelaire parents were linked to some kind of secret organization.
There are good people and bad people in the world. The ones who start the fires and the ones who put them out.
Alas, dire circumstances intervene.
It's the leeches!
These are the lachrymose leeches, who killed Josephine's husband Ike because he went into the water less than an hour after eating. Given her irrational fears, you'd think Aunt Josephine would heed this advice too, right?
Aunt Josephine!
Of course not. As an adult character in this movie, she obviously thought that saying, "Hey, I just ate, let's not leave right this minute," would have made things too freaking easy. What's next? Is she just gonna hand them right over to Olaf?
I won't tell anybody anything, I promise. Please don't throw me to the leeches. You can have the fortune. You can have the children. Josephine!
To be fair, she is a coward.
I'll dye my hair. I'll change my name.
But what about us?
Quiet, child. The adults are talking.
Oh, are there adults in this movie? I'd sure love to see them. Alas, the fierce dedication to grammar that nearly saved Josephine's life will now take it away from her.
On the other hand, with that little stunt of yours at the window, you hadn't been a very trustworthy person.
Haven't.
Mr. Poe arrives with the constable, and somehow... just watch.
I shouldn't have come. But when I heard the children were in danger, I had to. Even if I'm not fit to be their guardian.
It appears I was wrong about you, Count Olaf. You have proven yourself to be an exceptionally capable guardian. And I would be remiss in my responsibility if I did not place the children with you immediately.
And why does the movie make this choice?
The massive inheritance would be a constant reminder of my heartache.
The law clearly states that you would not inherit the Baudelaire fortune if anything happened to the children.
Say what?
No, with the exception, of course, of blood relatives and married couples.
Mr. Poe, have I told you about our new play?
Because now it's finally setting up the ending of the original book. In the name of adaptation, I get that it's the best ending of the 3 books to use for the 3rd act. But the writers came up with some pretty stupid runarounds in their efforts to push it back.
Klaus has conveniently read up on nuptial law, which Count Olaf plans to exploit in order to marry Violet, disguising it as a play. He's got every legal piece in place.
In order to be a valid marriage, it has to be administered by a bona fide justice of the peace.
Justice Strauss, are you ready for your debut?
Violet's only 14. She can't be legally married.
She can if she has the permission of her guardian. And who's that? Oh, yes.
Me!
Even though Olaf's also their relative, they're distantly enough related that this could technically be legal. I'm not going to look it up though, because just thinking about it is disgusting.
Let her go!
Gladly. Let her go.
No!
Put a hold on that.
I say one word into this, and down will come baby, cradle and all.
That's evil and all, but babies can start crying from just being hungry. I'm pretty sure Sunny would be bawling her eyes out here. Then again, this is the same baby that played around with the giant snake. The play begins, and Klaus has to operate behind the scenes to save Sunny.
What is that? It's the Count in his auto-gyro.
I didn't know they had this kind of budget.
This movie is populated by morons.
Right hand, please.
Wait, in the book, isn't that...
Yes. In the book, a legal loophole allows Violet to nullify the marriage by not signing with her dominant hand. Finding an inventive and subtle way for Violet to defeat Olaf was a credit to her character and a damn good last-minute twist. But this means that the movie's writers made an effort to change something from the book. They didn't just ignore it or forget about this detail like most writers usually do. They canceled out the possibility entirely. This is probably the most blatant and direct you to a movie source material that I've ever seen.
Klaus arrives at the top of the tower and finds some telling information about the death of his parents.
I'm very, very sorry to tell you this, but your parents have perished in a fire that's destroyed your entire home.
Meanwhile, Olaf is bragging about his scummy motives to the audience.
The certificate says that I have the fortune now, and there's nothing you can do about it.
So why are we getting all this weirdness instead of the proper ending of the book? So we can get the action-packed ending instead.
What do you think? Too diabolical? Give me some feedback.
We're teased with the possibility of eye for an eye justice.
Oh,
no. But then...
Count Olaf vanished after a jury of his peers overturned his sentence.
I'm sure the authorities will catch up with Count Olaf very soon.
Because they've done a stellar job of that so far. Mr. Poe brings the Baudelaires to their old house, where they receive a letter. Well, thank you, Mr. Mailman, for delivering a letter to a burnt-down house.
Wait, that must mean he's part of the organization.
Wait, then how would Mr. Poe know to get there?
Mr. Poe's part of the organization.
Bullshit. Anyway, it's a letter that got lost in the mail when their parents took a trip to Europe. Conveniently, the words written are relevant to what the children are going through now.
One day, when you're older, you will learn all about the people we've befriended and the dangers we have faced. At times, the world can seem an unfriendly and sinister place, but believe us when we say that there is much more good in it than bad. But in case this letter arrives before our return, know that we love you. Know that as long as you have each other, you have your family, and you are home.
Passing the torch is a rite of passage that can take many forms, but perhaps the least known and most surprising is the passing of a spyglass.
Now you're pledged to the secret club. Kiss your childhood goodbye, kids.
I am happy to say the Baudelaires were very fortunate indeed.
So that was Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, the movie. Unfortunate is a good word. The adult characters are as stupid as can be, and only because it serves the plot. Jim Carrey has but a few moments as Olaf where he comes across as legitimately intimidating. This makes most of the situations they're in come across not as tense, but as clumsy. And though I understand the reasoning behind it in a movie making sense, putting the first 3 books into one movie really did a number on the movie's pacing. And speaking of the books, some of the deviations made from the source material are just plain inexcusable. It should be worthy to note that this is a Nickelodeon Movies production. And I think that explains a lot about the tone that this movie was going for.
Even though they shoved 3 books into one movie, the events taking place in each story progress mostly in line with the books. Does this movie do anything else right? Its production design fits with the weird nature of the books. Some of the actors play their parts pretty well, especially Bill Connolly as Uncle Monty. The actress playing Violet gives a modestly good performance. The subtitles given to Sunny are amusing, and there exists a few genuinely heartwarming moments. If you were to find this movie in a bargain bin, I would also recommend it for its special features. If you like Jim Carrey as Olaf, there's more of his antics in the bloopers and deleted scenes. There's also a series of clips featuring 2 audience members from Olaf's play, who provided additional colored commentary that didn't make it into the movie. On a whole, if you go into this movie without a serious mindset, it's not the worst. However, I'm ready to see if the Netflix series is going to do the books justice.
But before we get to watching it, let's finish our business here by investigating this movie's plot holes.
Why didn't the orphans just roll down the windows to escape Olaf's car?
Even if you entertain the idea that Olaf rigged his car with special functions that didn't technologically exist in the time period, there should have still been a crank they could have used to roll down a window.
Why did Olaf ditch his Captain Sham disguise?
Captain Sham was deemed their legal guardian according to Josephine's suicide note. With Josephine now dead, keeping the disguise would have been a more airtight plan to kidnap the children, which is how he went about it in the book. Unfortunately, this illogical approach is perpetuated by the fact that Stefano was never unmasked as Olaf, which is what happened in the book. So the recurring precedent that Olaf would disguise himself to get to the children was never established. By the way, Tyler, I meant to ask, where'd you get this ticket?
Well, got it from this.
Do we have to?
In his auto gyro.
I didn't know they had this kind of budget.